Welcome to tonight's staffing committee meeting, and we'll go through the agenda as quickly as we can. Quite clearly, there's quite a lot on it, and there's some additions as well. Obviously, we'll catch up with later on. Public question time. Has anything come in with that regard, Liz?
No, we haven't got anybody joining us.
Okay, thank you very much. The other bit about the meeting will be recorded. That's we'll take that as granted, shall we?
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. Apologies. I know we've got Michael. Is there any others, Liz?
No.
I don't think there will. No, I don't think there will be. Okay. Items on the agenda. Should any be discussed in private session? Anybody, any strong feelings on any? Yeah, Rachel, go ahead.
I was just going to suggest this section on grievances should be discussed in private. I would have thought.
Yep.
Okay. Yep.
Yes, so we're all happy with that,
allow
folks?
an open discussion.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yep, grievance section. We'll do that in private, but
Sorry, it's item 15 on the list.
okay, yeah, fine. To receive members' personal and disclosable pecuniary interest, please. Okay, thank you. To receive any officer's interest in items on the agenda.
Well, I've got an interest, obviously.
Anything?
We're going to be discussing my pay.
Right. Any requests for DPI dispensations, please?
No.
No. Okay. And we've just to approve the minutes of the staffing committee meeting, which was last held 24th of February of this year. I have a copy of it here. Has anybody, have you had a chance to look at it? I don't think there's much we need to be following up on, but look at it. No. Have you anything you picked up on, Liz, on that one?
No.
No. Okay. Shall we take that as read, folks? Are you still studying the document? Okay.
Can we just
Right.
move them, Chair?
Yeah, absolutely. If we're happy with that, we'll just move them and pass along to the next item. Can we happily move that February? Yep. Thank you very much.
I wasn't there, so I've no idea if it's accurate or not.
No. Okay.
Same position. So
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't a massive agenda, and I haven't seen anything that looks remotely controversial, shall we say. Thank you very much for that. And now we're looking at, where are we? To note the National Pay Awards, which are backdated to April of this year. So, and our clerk is currently on SPC 29 and our deputy clerk on SCP 25. Now have you all got a copy of the document following that, section 9 of employment contract states?
Yeah.
Have we?
Yep.
Yeah, we've all had a go. We've all had a look at that. That's lovely. I've no need to read it out then. We're looking at report on the on the appraisal and looking at sanctioning, approving, whatever you want to say about the rises for both our clerk and the deputy clerk.
I'll certainly move that in terms of our clerk. Obviously, Liz has met the requirements laid out,
Yep.
and I see no, yeah, absolutely would support the increase.
Yep. Is everybody happy with that? We're supporting the annual increase backdated to April. That looks like everyone, I think. Yep, thank you very much for that. The next item is regarding our deputy clerk and responsible finance officer. A similar thing, it will be backdated payment. It's suggested on this that, as you can probably see, I think you've got it in front of you, haven't you, that document?
Yeah.
It's looking at our deputy clerk warranting a 2 increment increase at this particular time, and that's still remaining on his 25 hours a week, and we're looking at a double incremental rise, which by the look of it will give him an extra £1,009. And have we any comments on that, please? Any?
I think Rich has done
You want to?
I think Rich has done a fantastic job. I think, you know, I think many of us have said the difference in terms of the financial information and control has been, you know, well, it's very significant, to be truthful. So I could certainly see the sense in this jump in terms of what he's achieved. I think Liz, you put this forward, did you? In terms of
yeah, I think because I think when he was taken on, I don't think anyone realised that he didn't realise that he was going to be the RFO. He thought he was going to be the deputy clerk and deputy RFO, and it is a lot of responsibility. And I think that he carries. And although I have overall responsibility, he definitely knows a lot more about it than me and carries responsibility. And I just think it would be a reward for the work that he's done, and a mark of you know, respect for what he does, really. It's just off the top of my head. You don't have to agree. You can do as you like.
Okay. Well, looking at the work that Rich has done for us, we've been certainly lucky having him working for us. So can we look at what we've just spoken about, the double incremental rise for Rich as from this year, the current year? Are we okay with that? Any problems with that at all?
Just ask a question, just so I understand it, because within the ranges, so it pushes him up from 25 to 27, and then there's one more increment before he's at the top of the range. How do you move from one range to the next range? Do you have to get qualifications or something?
I think we do, yeah.
The clerk will certainly, yeah. But
I mean,
I don't think that involves
Rich, because I think he's done a great job.
Yeah.
So, but I was just thinking for the implications of.
I don't. Yeah, I know. I know from Liz's point of view, she's looking at her training and qualification quite clearly. I don't know whether. I don't think the same applies with Rich requiring qualification of that order, but
I think it does actually.
Quite clearly.
I think he needs to be looking at Silka as well. Actually, definitely needs to be doing Silka.
Well, if that is the case, then we could certainly look down that route if you like. Pat, go ahead, please.
I think
Pat?
this raises the issue that we need to look at the professional development for all of our employees. And that if somebody is coming towards the top of a range of payment, then we have to think about what we do to help them carry on development and that sort of thing. It might be something we should have some sort of informal meeting with the two employees. I'm at this point not talking about, I've forgotten her name, the climate lady.
Michelle.
She's a slightly different kettle of fish. Talking about where they want to go. I mean, they need to have a think. Then come to us about where they want to go, what they'd like to do, how that will move them forward, where they see it going, and then we could have an informal meeting or a formal one, or an informal one followed by a formal one, whatever.
Well, it's part of the supervision anyway. It's something we look at in supervision and appraisal anyway. So that will come back to you after the annual appraisal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, you're quite right. It's our responsibility to offer training that's available and take it from there. And with regard to meetings, I hope to instigate meetings on a fairly regular basis, as we have been doing, just to make sure that things are going comfortable for our members and staff, that we are supplying what they need, when they need it, etc. I know it's been a couple of months now, but that's how I'm approaching it as as it stands at the moment. Rachel, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say. I mean, it'll be an issue for Rich when he's potentially the next year, then at the top of the band. So I guess it's something to ask Liz as his line manager to start discussing over the next kind of 6-8 months actually what qualifications he'd like to think about working towards. But I think we can leave that for Liz and Rich to talk about. And just proceed with the pay increment that we're saying.
Yep, that makes sense.
Indeed. Okay.
We both feel that we're on a huge learning curve already, and it hasn't really slowed down.
Yep.
So, in terms of challenge, we're plenty challenged already, really.
Yeah.
But,
Okay. So are we all happy with that concept?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Thank you very much indeed. Right. Next item, to approve the appointment of the new Climate Emergency Act Plan Coordinator. We've all received a copy, a contract, so we know. Have we any? I know we've some bits to report on that. Our clerk. Any initial thoughts from anyone? Any comments, please? No. Okay, Liz, do you want to come in on this one with your little section?
Well, at the time I wrote the agenda, I thought it was going to be a fairly straightforward matter of confirming the appointment, because in February we delegated 3 people to advertise, interview and appoint. Subsequently, as from last Monday, I did ask a question of the YLCA as to whether we had followed the proper procedure, and their view in the end was that we hadn't, that we should have, that the staffing committee doesn't have the right, it's not delegated to do such things without council approval. So in a way we have fallen foul, but what we have to do at the next full council is put it on the agenda and have a resolution to confirm what actually happened.
So we actually we fell foul with Rich as well then, didn't we?
Yes, we did. And I remember when I was appointed, it did go back to full council.
Yeah, but we didn't.
I remember waiting for months to hear anything after I mean, it's not a good process, but it's apparently what we need to do is reword our scheme of delegations for the staffing committee in future. Rachel's got her hand up.
I know Trevor's frozen on my screen, but hopefully you can hear what's being said. I don't know if he's frozen on others. Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's unfortunate that I think the challenge is that the scheme of delegation is kind of open to interpretation as to what was intended, and I think everything was done in good faith, that the appointment was part of the process of recruitment, and there wasn't any deliberate trying to subvert rules or look for loopholes. So but in terms of appointing someone, it's a slightly bizarre situation if you've potentially got to wait several months to formalise it. So I guess the question will be whether as a staffing committee we think that we should request a change to the scheme of delegation that gives us the delegated authority to not only interview, recruit, but also formally appoint the member, or whether we actually specify in the scheme of delegation that the appointment requires, if necessary, an extraordinary full council meeting to ratify it. Because I think at the moment the scheme of delegation, all it says, and I've got it here, it says staffing committee is responsible for all matters relating to employees based on recommendations made and agreed by council or in line with contractual arrangements. And you could read that as, well, actually the staffing committee is responsible for employees, and in this instance Michelle being an employee, we followed through on what had already been agreed in terms of a recruitment process. So I think somewhere along the lines, I don't think anyone has done anything deliberately in knowledge of it being not quite in line with what the scheme of delegation says, but actually we need to tidy up the wording in the scheme of delegation. And the question is, do we think that the staffing committee should have the delegated authority to appoint as well as interview and lead the recruitment process, or do we think we should specify that actually the formal appointment should always come through full council? Because I think we need to make it explicit so that everybody is clear what the process is. So I don't mind either way personally.
Yeah.
Paul, go ahead.
Yep. Sure. Yeah, I think you've just summed it up perfectly, because when you just read that out, it's open to interpretation, isn't it? And that's obviously there's one interpretation that we've taken for two lots of recruitment, and there's another interpretation coming through from the association. So yeah, I absolutely agree. We need to make it categorical either way. I'm the same as you. I don't think it matters either way, to be truthful, as long as there's an opportunity to have quickly and pull together an extraordinary meeting. I don't think it matters either way, as long as it's absolutely clear. That's clearly not very. That's so open to interpretation. That's landed us where we are now, I guess.
Doug's has got his hand up.
Yes, Doug's, go ahead, please.
Okay. I think it's not even, for me, it's not even the staffing committee. It's actually who's the appointment panel. Like any other interview process, you agree who's on the recruitment panel, and those people make that appointment. They don't go back to another committee or another boss or another structure. So I think the staffing committee should appoint the recruitment panel, and the recruitment panel make the decision, because otherwise you've got people who weren't part of the recruitment process questioning what happened, and I don't really see how that's possible. So I think the only people who can really have a view as somebody's appointment of who the best candidates were the ones who were involved in both the shortlisting and the interview and the and any subsequent conversations with candidates. So I think we clearly need to make it much clearer, but I think we need to delegate the power to staffing to appoint a recruitment panel, and those panel are empowered to make the appointment.
I think I must say, I think what we've done and how these two processes have gone through have been quite successful, and we haven't actually, I don't know, we've come up with any problems with them as such. It's worked, hasn't it, as we've done. Jason, go ahead, please. Don't know whether he's heard me or not.
It's frozen.
I think he's frozen in time.
Jason,
Just
talk to
a
me.
thought.
Ah,
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
yes, we got you. We did.
I can hear you, but you can't hear me. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
That's
Right.
yes.
Just to point it out, my company, what we do now is to do the interviews. They have like a panel of interviewees. They do a recommendation to the general manager. And the general manager has the final say. So the general manager and the council say is the full council. So if companies like my company doing that, maybe it's the way we've got to do things. But as Councillor Hockley said, maybe we need to do an extraordinary meeting to approve, to speed up the process of getting recruitings done.
Can I suggest?
Okay, thank you.
Can I make a
Did you
suggestion?
get that without it breaking up?
That Jason and Trevor turn their
Does
vision
everybody
off.
catch what?
If you turn your vision off, we'll get better sound from you, and you're both having real struggling. So if both Trevor and Jason turn their vision off, I think we'll hear them better. Hello?
Okay. That's fine. Just bide with me a moment.
Is
I'll
that
get
better
my
for you?
opener.
Sounds better so far, yeah.
Right. Do I need to repeat what I just said before?
Yes, please.
Okay. What I was saying is my company, the way they do the interviews is they have a recruitment panel who do the interviews. At the end of the meeting, they go to the general manager of that department and make a recommendation about which employees they want to employ. And he has the final say so. In council, the same principle where the people do the interviews are the recruitment officers, and they recommendation to the full council of which employees we employ. So I think the principle's there, but I do agree with Councillor Hogley's idea that to speed up process that we do have an extraordinary meeting to confirm employment of the said employee.
Okay. Anybody coming back on that one?
Well, now
Mary's
that
got her hand up.
Yes. Yeah, sorry, I've been trying to get into this for a while. Yeah, I mean, my feeling is that the appointment, the decision on the appointments made by the staffing committee. But I do think that the appointment needs to be ratified by the full council at an extraordinary meeting if necessary.
Okay. Yep. Thank you for that. Pat, your comment, please.
I agree with Mary, and I think now that we've discovered that we can do Zoom, extraordinary council meetings could be very easy and very quick. Set up, do, and finish. You could have one-item meetings, we could do it on Zoom, and it could be ratified.
Okay.
Can I make a
anyone on that?
Can I make
no,
a
I'm not.
suggestion then, Chairman, that you, as a committee,
Yeah.
you decide which way forward you want to go so that I can table it for the next full council, either to change the scheme of delegations or to keep it as it is.
Can I make a proposal, please, Mr. Chairman?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Yeah, I propose that
I'm not getting
do-
anything there
yeah.
at all.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Jason.
Yeah. My proposal is that we have recruitment teams to do the recruitment, but they report back to full council for verification of taking the same employee in. but if needs be, we have emergency meeting to to get that process speeded up, so the employee is not waiting months to get employed.
Yes. Anyone comments on that one, please? Doug, I think, put first.
Well, I mean, I've already said what I think, so clearly I'll be voting against any proposal to take it to full council, because I think it's a nonsense. I think the people who are on the appointment panel make the appointment, and I could see, or perhaps tolerate, bringing that back to staffing for approval. But if I wasn't part of a committee, I'd have to abstain on that decision, because I don't know the candidates. I don't know their strengths and weaknesses. I don't see as I can have an opinion. So I don't really see any value of even taking it to staffing, and I certainly don't see any value in taking it to full council. You know, we delegate powers to committees, subcommittees delegate powers to working groups. They take actions. That's how I think any other business runs, and that's how I think the parish should run personally. I'm aware of a minority view on that.
Rachel, your comment, please.
Yeah, I think I'm minded to agree with Doug's, actually. I think what we need to do in the scheme of delegation is basically add some bullet points that say that the staffing committee is responsible for establishing an interview panel, and those people are delegated to undertake the process and provide a recommendation back to the staffing committee for approval. But I think we probably need to add in somewhere that says the principle of employing a member of staff should be ratified by full council. So that's not about the individual who does it, it's just about the principle of adding a member of staff. Because I think that's where this has got a little bit muddled, because I agree with Doug's about, I think it is a bit silly if several councillors have gone through the process of interviewing and assessing people, and then potentially what could happen at full council is someone hears of the name, maybe knows them from another point of view or whatever, or just doesn't like the sound of the person, and then they could be voted against, and the whole process would fall apart. So I think it does need to sit with staffing committee, but we actually need to, in the scheme of delegation, talk about having an interview panel consisting of members of the staffing committee, but also the principle of a member of staff being appointed to the council having to be ratified by full council. So I appreciate that wording needs to be worked out, and I think we could do that could go into the scheme of delegation.
Trevor, just
okay, any comments on that one, please?
Yeah, if I could.
Yeah,
I'm just working out chronologically how that goes through, Rachel. So the staffing committee would obviously put together the job spec, the interview panel, carry out the interviewing. Then that interview panel would make a recommendation back to the staffing committee for approval.
Yeah.
Is that then followed again by another vote of full council, you're saying?
No, the vote at full council would be before it gets to the staffing committee.
That's what I was just trying to clarify. So chronologically, that's fine. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I suppose in the first instance, just to clarify, say in this instance of appointing Michelle, we would have had a full council agreement to the principle of employing a member of staff to do the role, and that would specifically have been a motion rather than within the climate change budget.
Yeah.
And then that would then be delegated to staffing to undertake the process, but within the and staffing would then create the little interview panel, which then reports back to staffing, and it's staffing that makes a decision on the candidate.
I would support that. I think that's very similar to what Jason's proposed, but slightly chronologically slightly different. But yeah.
Yep. So, Pat.
I think the
Go ahead,
difference.
please.
I think what Rachel's saying is good, because it avoids the possibility of full council just wiping out all the work done by an interview panel. if they agree the principle, they don't agree who does it, basically. It's staffing who agrees who does it. So full council says we'll have a person and staffing chooses a person. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm. Are we okay? Are we happy with that? Jason, where does your thoughts leave with that one? Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Thumbs up with that one. Are we, go ahead, Pat.
Well, shouldn't Rachel propose that and then we can vote on it?
Want me to do that? Okay.
What do you think?
All right, I'll propose. Okay, I propose that the process of any new staff appointment starts with the principle being agreed at full council, and then the actual process being delegated to the staffing committee, and the scheme of delegation to be altered accordingly. And I'm happy to support Liz in the wording if you need that, Liz.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, can we look at support for that proposal, please? Are we all happy to go down that route? Show of hands, if you would, please, and then, yep, that's looking good. Are you all right with it, Pat? Yep. Thank you. That's lovely. Next item.
Can I just ask who's
Consider further training.
who's going to
Sorry,
sign?
go ahead.
Just to finish off item 11, need to know who's going to sign the contract of employment, please. Probably the chair of staffing.
Signing the contract of, chair of staffing, I would suggest.
Okay.
And then it's altered on an annual basis. Yeah.
In that
Okay
case,
with that.
you could sign your copy, Trevor, and post it to me, and I'll post it back to Michelle to sign it again.
Okay. Yeah. Everyone happy with that? Any problems? No. Thank you very much. And we're now looking at considering the purchase of an iPad for our new member of staff, the coordinator of the emergency committee. Consider which budget this will be accessed for this equipment and for the post holders training to go with it, I presume. Any advanced thoughts on that one, please? Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, well, in terms of the budget, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, the climate emergency budget, and we did put in something for, I remember the original budget, can't remember exactly how much, we did put in something for hardware, for whoever was appointed.
Right.
I don't remember us putting in anything for training. I might be wrong, but I think we did. So from my perspective, absolutely, yeah, sure, it should come from the climate emergency budget.
Okay, thank you for that. Mary, go ahead.
I mean, we've already discussed this at full council, haven't we, and approved
Mary.
it. I can't see any point in discussing it. I mean, that's just agree and move on.
It's about which budget it comes from, really, because if it's not going to, we might have to via at some stage some budgets to make sure we've got enough money to pay for it. But if you're happy for that, then
I think Liz, just on that.
So if we look at the go ahead, Paul.
Sorry, I was just going to say, in terms of the climate emergency budget, there is no issue whatsoever. You wouldn't have to fire any money into it. There's more than enough at the moment. So
okay, thank you for that. Well, that's the piece of equipment. But what about training? Have we any ideas on training for this lady? Anything going, Liz, that you're aware of?
I don't know. I mean, I presume that Paul's already had some discussion with her about training. Have you, Paul?
Well, I think the short answer to that is we don't envisage any specific training because, and Rachel can join in on this. When we recruited, we were really looking for somebody who was ready to sort of hit the road running and go forward. So no, there was no,
Right.
certainly no view that we were looking to put any specific training.
Okay, sorry, I thought you
Right.
had. But that's why Richard asked me. So obviously,
Oh, well,
goose chase.
okay. Well, thank you for that. Jason, go ahead. Jason.
Yeah. The first thing I
Go
thought
ahead,
you
please.
got agreed last. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Yeah. I thought last week we agreed that the iPad came out of the budget already for the climate emergency group already. And also with the training, I think we should leave it open. If there's something comes along and we think that they need training in it, we need to leave that there for them, you know, for the future. Let's protect ourselves, not leave it to another meeting where it could be 6 months down the line where we've got to make a decision. Let's leave it open for that. If it does need to be done, that it can be done quickly.
Okay. Paul, can I bring you into the conversation?
Yeah, I think Rachel, did you want to come in first, Rachel, before me?
Yeah, I just wanted to chip in that there has been one small training thing. It's for about 16 quid or something. It was an online course because I had to sign the financial paper the other day, which Michelle had done, which was I don't know, some network thing with different organisations addressing climate change. So it was, you know, very appropriate to the role. But I think all those costs associated with Michelle, training, resources, pay, are all within that climate emergency budget. And if Rich needs money wired from that climate emergency budget into a staffing budget because that works from a governance point of view, then I think that's fine. But I think the principle is all the costs associated with the climate emergency coordinators come from that budget that was set in the climate emergency.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. No issue with that. And I think, I would be surprised if there's anything significant on training. But yeah, there's money there to support that if needs be.
That's good. Are we all content with that discussion? Are we all happy with leaving it as it stands? Yep. Thank you very much. And now we can consider further training for the clerk. Silca prospectus attached. Any comment on Silca, folks, or the training thereof with our clerk? Yes, Rachel, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say what it says in the agenda is the clerk's quite happy that she's progressing with plenty at the minute. So I think we take Liz at her word, which I think is entirely fair, and she can progress at the rate that she feels able to at the minute. So as far as I can make out, it would be a bit off for us to demand additional training to be done, because I think Liz is doing a great job in picking up the reins of the job and developing at the rate that she can.
Okay, thank you. Pat, please go ahead.
Yeah, it's a question really, and I have no desire to push Liz one way or the other into training or not training. But am I not right in thinking that if there is a qualification she needs to get that alters our legal status as a council or our financial status as a council?
Is that a question to me?
Yeah. Well, to whoever can answer it.
Yeah, it means that we have to prove. Shall I answer that, Chairman?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. You have to have a qualified clerk to apply to have quality status, which you had before when Sally Barber was the clerk. And I think you could argue that didn't necessarily lead through to quality transactions. But anyway, that's one thing. And the other thing is that you have to, if you don't have a qualified clerk, you have to identify every bit of legislation or outside of it that you've used to pay money. And that's actually been quite a good thing, because we've had to look at what's 137, what's under the Local Government Act 1972, and that's
Okay.
it's been part of the fact that we've been scrutinised a bit more. But really, in terms of, it doesn't train you, as they say in the stuff, it doesn't train you to be a clerk. You get all that as you go along. What it gives you is a qualification that says you're now as good as you can be. So I'm not sure at this stage that's what I need. I need to go on gathering the experience before I start to polish it. That's my view.
Right. Okay, thank you for that. Mary, go ahead, please.
Yeah, just to reinforce what Liz has just said. I mean, it's clear in the information we've been sent from Silca that clerks must make sure anybody embarking on the course must make sure that they've got enough time to do it. And it's also a kind of a course which is assessed by portfolio and other documents that you produce as part of your day-to-day work, and certainly that in a way is a summation of work that's been done and of having got to a certain level. So I would certainly support Liz in thinking perhaps this is, perhaps sometime in the future, but this is not the time, because the council is still going through a period of flux and establishment, and too much is happening really to ask Liz to, or suggest that Liz might embark upon it at this point.
Yeah. I got most of that, Mary, and thank you for that. I would endorse most of what you said there. Is there anyone with any alternative ideas to what we've just heard? Are we all happy with that as it stands at the moment? Are we okay? Any problem area? Are we leaving well alone? Have a good show of thumbs there. Is that looking all right? Yep. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. And we're now looking to consider the role of Staff Development Review Coordinator. If it has not been resolved at the annual meeting, which we know it wasn't as far as I can recall. There's a little paragraph underneath it, which I think you'll still look at. And anybody with any ideas on that one? Any strong thoughts, etc.? Or any volunteers even?
A couple of hands up, Trevor.
Trevor, I was going to just contribute.
No, Doug, go ahead.
I don't know if was it Diane that did it before?
Yeah.
Or Diane, I wasn't sure of the benefit of, or otherwise, whether it should be somebody on staffing or not on staffing. Whether we want somebody who's more independent, or actually embedded in the staffing process. Because I could see there's a value of a clerk having an ear of somebody who not part of staffing, but equally I can see the benefit of them being somebody on the committee. So I just throw that out there because I don't know what people think. What does that need to be somebody who's on staffing or not? I guess that's my question.
Okay.
Can I come back onto that one,
yeah.
Chairman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, just give you some. I'll just give you some of the history to the councillors who have not been on long. Over the years, Councillor Tom Dixon's done it. We've asked Councillor Tom Dixon to come onto the staffing to do the coordination. I think for the last 2 years, we've had the chairman of the staffing committee to do it. So one possible suggestion of a person who's used to doing it is Councillor Tom Dixon. We could ask him, would he be interested in doing it for us? If not, generally the role does fall onto the chairman of the staffing committee.
Okay. Did we all get that?
Yeah.
That information? Yes. So, it's worth asking, isn't it? I believe we did approach Councillor Hall, and she I think she was wanting a break from it. That was the impression I got. But shall we look at, see if Tom Dixon is interested in doing the taking on that role? I'll be honest, it's in the back of my head that he has at some stage said he wasn't really up for it again, but worth an ask by all means, if that's what we feel. Oh, and then if there's a negative on that, well, we'll take it a stage further and see what we come up with. Is that all right?
Yeah.
So we'll talk to Tom and see if he's okay with it. Any objections to that, please, before we go any further? Are we okay with that one? Thank you very much.
It's quite a long time for me to wait then, until the next staffing committee.
Sorry,
yeah,
sorry, Trevor. Just ask a question, Trevor. Sorry.
Yeah, by all means.
Well, in terms of this role, Liz, how many reviews are involved, and what's involved in total?
So far, I've had a 6-monthly appraisal and a yearly appraisal, and I think that's enough.
If Tom is not happy to do it, I'll volunteer. My background's HR. I've done enough of those appraisals in the past. I'm sure. I'm happy to do that. But I was just trying to ascertain, because of my workload, I think I could manage that, but I couldn't manage sort of, ongoing mentoring and coaching and all that. So it's essentially the appraisal process, Liz, is it?
I haven't made any demands on Di, apart from occasionally complained about some of the things that have been said to me, but I haven't sought advice from her about how to do my job, because there's other people to do that.
Well, I'm happy to volunteer for that on that basis then, because it sounds like otherwise Liz is going to be left without anything. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask?
Okay.
Are we going to do the forms that we used to do, where every member of the council does like a 1 to 5 review on certain aspects of the clerk, or are we reverting to the system what we did last year?
Can you repeat the beginning of that, Jason, please?
Yeah, what we used to do is every single member of the council used to have a form to fill in regarding employees. I was just asking, are we going to do that again, or are we going to stick to the system we did last year, where it's just left informal?
It's not informal, Councillor Brooke. It's a formal procedure appraisal, but it's carried out by one person. And
sorry, what I meant by that, sorry, it's not done by the full council, it's done by one person informally. It's they do it themselves, they do it all themselves, the council are not involved with it at all. It's all done by one person, and then they report back to the council with the results. Maybe informal is the wrong word. Maybe formally is the word I should be using.
I've seen in Sally Barber's time, forms were sent out and people were asked to comment on all sorts of aspects of the clerk's ability and performance.
Yeah, you're quite right. That was a procedure for quite a long time. It did cause some problems. I think a slight change came about on the format required. What I was going to say, if all else failed, the idea of leaving that coordination post with whoever's chairman of staffing committee might be an appropriate way around it for the future. That's a possibility.
Well, if you remember,
Then
in the last year, what we said was that it would be better if you had continuity. so that it wasn't changed every year. And that's why we brought that role back in again, rather than it having the chairman of staffing to do it, because that changes every year.
Mhm. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Rachel, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say one thing about the forms. I think the main thing is, provided everyone on full council knows who the staff development coordinator is, it's up to individual councillors to, if they wish, feedback on the performance of the clerk. I think those forms just caused a complete nightmare, because in the end, you know, if one person had very strong views one way and they were all anonymised from memory, so it made it very difficult and a bit of a headache for the person dealing with it. And I think that was one of the things that Tom found challenging at the time. But we've had a proposal from Councillor Davies volunteering to do staff development coordinator. I'm quite happy to second his proposal, and then we've got someone straight away. And I think it's, as I say, it's for the staffing committee to report to full council that Paul, if people vote for him now, is the staff development coordinator, and anyone who wishes to give any views on the performance of the clerk when we're approaching appraisal times, then they can do so.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, just Doug, you had your hand up, I believe.
Yeah, I was going to say similar to what Rachel said. I'd second Paul's nomination. I also think really if people have got concerns about the clerk, maybe they should, or any of the staff, maybe they should take that to the chair, and then the chair would speak to the. I'm aware, and I just think really the person doing the appraisal should have some sort of. I just think we need to decide what the process is. It may be even covered in some of the new policies that we've adopted. But I think the most important thing is that there's a named person as soon as possible. And if Paul's happy to do that, I'd support that.
Yep. Any thoughts, anyone? Any further ideas, actions? Or can we go down that route and then it's... I can hear a lot of background noise somewhere. Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking that there should be an opportunity for all councillors to maybe just report to Councillor Davies if he is the coordinator of views. You know, maybe it's just like an in-person, like an email straight to Paul saying, like, I've got concerns on this. But, you know, they give him an opportunity to respond. But then obviously, as a coordinator, he coordinates what he needs to do and do a review. I think to leave the full council out of it is a bit wrong, because the full council are the employee, not just the staffing.
Any comments on that, folks?
I mean, I would say if any councillors have concerns about a clerk or indeed any employee, then it's it's up to them as individuals to make representations to whoever is the staff development review coordinator. I think we've got to remember that appraisal is normally a confidential process as well, and a lot of this is slightly, sounds to me, from a different background, coming slightly disturbing, really.
Okay. Pat, go ahead, please.
I'm entirely with Mary. I think this is something that should be done confidentially. I mean, of course, there can be a report back saying there has been a satisfactory appraisal, and the actual appraisal would be filed and kept in confidential files. But it should be private, and it should be done by one person. And as Mary says, if councillors have concerns or particular areas of praise, though I know which they'll bother to do and which they won't bother to do, then, I'm not aware of anybody in our body who's unable to utter what they think is wrong to somebody.
Yeah. Well, what we sort of...
We've lost you, Trevor.
I was going to say, I can't hear you, Trevor.
You're silent, I'm afraid. You need to switch off and on, I think.
Give me a moment.
Hear you, we can hear you again now.
Oh, have I come?
Yeah, you're back. No, you've gone again.
Stable. Oh dear. It says I'm unstable.
Aren't we all?
Is it up? Is it on now?
Yes.
Ah, good. No, I was just overall looking at the coordinator post, and it's basically it seems to have followed a pattern whereby the coordinator looks twice a year at the work that's been undertaken by the clerk, deputy clerk, and what have you, and at that point looks at perhaps making some comment or other with regard to performance, if you like. That's how it's been seen, not as a not as a daily thing where everybody passes information through on a regular basis. That I don't think that's how it seemed, or even for somebody to take it on board, it might be too much like that. Any good? Have I gone again?
No, you're still there.
Fine.
Ah, right.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah, please do.
The coordinator announces, say, a month or 2 months before the appraisal to the full council that the appraisal will be happening on X date, and that if they have feedback, now's the time, that they should give it before that date.
Yep. Does that sound acceptable? Any objectors to that as an idea?
That was what was suggesting.
I'm not getting that at all. Anybody get that message from Jason? I didn't hear anything.
No.
No.
Sorry, I'll repeat again.
Okay.
That's what I was suggesting when I was making the comment, saying that if anybody's got comments, but there should be a time period where they've got an opportunity to make a comment to the person who's doing the coordinating. I didn't mean all year, and then at a specific time. You can say from week 1 to week 3, this is your opportunity to make comments. Then it's all in one go. Then he can review those comments in a short base of time before he does the full thing he needs to do. I didn't mean over the 12 months.
Okay. Right. So, any more comments on that, folks? Have we decided on a route to follow? We found a willing coordinator, and shall we leave that? We'll accept our willing coordinator and take it from there.
Yep.
Does that? Sorry, I don't know whether you're getting me or not, but
Yeah, we are.
Are we happy with as far as we've got? And we'll take it as a yes from the point of view of we've got somebody for tonight.
Yeah.
And for the next 12 months, if you like, or whatever. Is that all right? Yeah, lovely. Anybody not thumbs up, please? Anybody not happy? Right, that's great. Thank you very much indeed. That's that one sorted.